welcome to Silux, the podcast where we talk about scientific developments and technological changes in Luxembourg. And in today's episode, we talked to Dr. Sébastien Faye from the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, and he told us a little bit more about 5G and LIST's research related to this subject. So we talked about connected mobility, IoT, so Internet of Things, and many other projects that are currently happening in Luxembourg. Hello and welcome to Silux. Our guest today is Sébastien Faye, 6G Technology and Innovation Line Manager at LIST. Hello, Sébastien. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Good afternoon.
I invited you here today to, first of all, represent LIST and tell us a bit about the research there, but mainly to focus on 5G that you specialize in and all the different research projects that you've done, and also just introduce us to the subject. It's been quite a hype for some time, I would say, so it's good to set the scene and understand it better first. So I would like to start just with very simple definitions, as usual in this podcast. Can you tell us how we ended up with 5G? Because before there was 1G, 2G, 3G, right? What do they actually mean?
It's a very long story actually, but it's not so old. So basically, mobile networks, they first appeared about 40 years ago with, I think it was phones that were deployed in cars at that time. So they are usually organized in generations. So this is what you said. So that it's basically easier for the industry and the standardization institutes to concentrate their efforts. So basically, every 10 years, more or less, you have a new generation with a set of new technologies, let's say new network technologies. So right after the first generation, I think it was about 40 years ago, then the next generations were introduced, and the phones became smaller and smarter, as you certainly know. So the first networks were analog. It was only designed for calls, and then the possibility of let's say sending messages and then progressively of transmitting data led to the development of new services and then new generations. And today we have 5G. So with these new generations, there are many new network technologies that have been improved compared to what exists with 4G, for instance. So now we are talking about active antennas. We are talking about technologies that can automatically adapt to the users compared to 4G. And most importantly, this new generation offers a service-oriented architecture. So this means that the network can dynamically, let's say, change according to the user demand. So if you're, someone watching a video, for instance, that does not have the same needs that as someone that is sending an email. So now the network is fully able to make this differentiation and then to develop new services accordingly. And of course, for us, because, as you said, we are a research and technology institute. All this new architecture, all these new deployments, so they are way more complex to manage than the previous generations. So this is why we basically need research to facilitate the deployment of these new technologies. And this is what we are doing at least. This is also what other entities are doing. We are already working on the next generation 6G, so that we can, let's say, develop more and more innovative services for end users and companies. As I said, it's a long story, but not so much. It's still quite recent. We're only talking about a few years in the end. So there is much more in the pipeline.
Absolutely. That's basically my lifetime, if I may say. So it's pretty recent for myself, at least, because, when you say analog phones, analog calls, I guess maybe for our younger listeners, we need to say we didn't start with smartphones, right? We're talking about phones that were really used only to make calls, but mobile phones.
Indeed. So at the beginning, the first mobile phones, they were really deployed in cars, so that it was possible for the end users to just communicate, when they were moving. And then, of course, with the evolution of the technology, with the miniaturization of the components and so on, then we saw all this progress happening, and then all these new digital services, smartphones, and which are of course way more recent.
It's interesting what you're saying, because I think we have this tendency to associate 4G, 5G with internet and mobile internet and the data we can get through it, rather than actually a technology that helped us communicate in the very beginning. So the discussion we're having right now is more about how much data we can get out of it, rather than actually improvement of communication as such.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, today everything is about data, right? So when we are making a phone call, when we are sending a message, when we are downloading a video, when we are deploying a new service, a mobility service, or any kind of new service, it's all about data. So the new networks, the next generation of networks, I mean, they should be able to let's say, to deal with this massive amount of data, because we have more and more devices, of course, that are deployed everywhere. So yeah, it's all about data, indeed.
When you talked about 5G, you mentioned a term, if I'm not mistaken, active antennas. What is that?
So yes, I was talking about new active antennas that are deployed specifically with 5G. So the fact is that the previous generations, they were relying on passive antennas, meaning that these antennas had more or less all the time the same behavior, independently on the number of users that are requesting, for instance, an access to a service or something similar. With 5G, we have a set of new technologies that are dynamically, let's say, changing according to the number of users that are around the antenna. So if you only have one user, for instance, in the night connected to one 5G transmitter, then the antenna will behave accordingly, And this is the same if you have, for instance, mobile users, vehicles, many antennas that are distributed around a 5G installation, then this antenna will behave dynamically. So now we have this possibility with 5G. We have very precise beams that are, emitted from these active antennas. And thanks to that, we can basically deliver more throughput. This makes all these installations more adaptive and reactive to a demand.
Why is that important? Why do we care about the fact that, it's active? Is it about energy consumption? What does it improve?
Okay, so I think it's good to maybe to define a bit why 5G has been defined first. So as I told you, each generation, takes on average 10 years to be technically defined, standardized, and so on. So 5G, when this has been defined, three categories of, let's say, of use cases have been designed with this new generation. Okay, this was the target, let's say, at the beginning, and this is what we would like to deploy today. So the first use case was connection speed, throughput. Okay, so here the objective is to download a large volume of data quickly, or for instance, like videos and so on. The second is connectivity and the number of devices that are connected to a single antenna. So this might be related to IoT, for instance. So before, the number of different devices that could be connected to an antenna, it was quite limited. Now with 5G, we can connect much more devices to a single antenna. And this is, of course, this is due to several new technologies, but among these new technologies, you have this active antenna system and the fact that for one 5G transmitter, you have a much bigger capacity. So this is the result to be able to absorb, to be connected to way more devices. And the third use case, it's about low latency and high quality of service. So it's basically about the responsiveness of the network, sending information and receiving a reply in a few milliseconds. So this one is extremely important. This is what will contribute probably to the development, for instance, of connected mobility or autonomous driving services, for instance. So if you have a vehicle, a vehicle that detects an obstacle, for instance, it should be able to send this information as quickly as possible and then know how to react. So, of course, there are several ways of achieving this, which are relatively new and which we probably develop in the future. But all these low latency use case is quite useful. At least we have a group that is working on this topic. We are working on edge networking. So here the objective is to put the network infrastructure as close as possible to the users to be more responsive. And when we are doing that, then this means that we are putting antennas, we are putting hardware, almost in the street. So before, all this was, let's say, not visible to the users. Now it becomes visible. So well, this might of course lead to additional issues for the general public. But then, I mean, with this kind of deployments, we are really benefiting from all these active antenna systems. We can really interconnect many more devices than before. We can really, since the beams are way more focused, then we can concentrate, let's say, a larger amount of information and to make it to make it very simple. So this is actually well a new way, let's say, of being interconnected with with an antenna, and this is why I think one of the reasons why 5G is particularly interesting. I think.
You've mentioned so many things. I don't know if I remember all the questions I wanted to ask you. But first of all, with 4G, you had antennas that had quite low number of devices that could connect to them. That's what you said. With 5G, you're saying that you can increase the number of devices. So why are we talking about more antennas rather than less?
It depends. And so these are two different things. So 5G, as you might heard, will explore new frequency bands. Okay, meaning that of course we cannot reuse, or not immediately, depends on the cities, on the countries and so on, the frequency bands that are used for 4G. So what we are targeting today, in Luxembourg, this is mainly the 3.6 gigahertz band, and in the future we would like to explore these millimeter waves, so meaning really higher frequency bands. But the consequence of using these frequency bands is that an antenna has a smaller coverage. Okay, so you can deliver more information, but you have a smaller coverage. So then, of course, you need more antennas to be deployed over a given territory, so that you can deliver a given service, for instance.
Makes absolute sense. Then another question: you said that the antennas are more visible to the people. Why are they more visible? Where do you place them actually?
So coming back to the first generation of, to what we call 1G or even 2G, I mean, at that time, I think that we were talking about antennas that were covering, several kilometers, right? So of course it was deployed sometimes outside the city. It was not directly visible to the users. Now, as I just told you, we have more and more antennas because we need to cover the user demand, right? We need to absorb, to cover more devices. So this means that the density of the antennas, I mean, this is just changing, this is just evolving. So this means that we need to deploy antennas on top of buildings. We need to deploy antennas in the street sometime to be, for instance, quickly connected to vehicles. And the direct consequence of that is that it's directly visible to the general public.
Coming back to very beginning of our discussion, at a certain moment you said IoT. What is IoT, and why do we have to talk about it when we talk about 5G?
Okay, thank you for raising this point. Well, IoT, this is what we call the Internet of Things. So this is a very broad keyword that refers to the connectivity between the devices and the Internet. So this is, I guess, very simple and general keyword. But in any case, there is a fact today. So the number of devices that are well connected to the internet, I mean, this is increasing clearly. The evolution is really impressive. We are talking today about several billion objects that are connected to the internet. Tomorrow, probably it will be much more. So this is huge. So we need to manage that, and this is where certainly 5G can help, because this technology, let's say this set of network technologies, comes with a way bigger capacity, let's say, for interconnecting all these devices. So today everything can be connected. I mean, we are talking about watches, cameras, even domestic equipment, and many others. So of course this is sometimes a bit controversial, but this is specifically precisely what we are studying, at least by trying to create new services that are truly innovative. So for instance, I can cite one project that has been done in Luxembourg, where we deployed connected sensors into waste bins to measure the filling level of these waste bins in real time. And on top of that, we developed an optimization algorithm so that we can, help support a waste collection company to optimize the ways they are collecting waste. And all these solutions, this led to a 50% improvement in the waste collected by the company. And thanks to the FNR today, and to our partner Polygon, we are currently pushing this solution. So this is called Plume to the market, and this is just one of the various examples we can let's say develop thanks to this new connectivity assets. And there are plenty of applications like that, and then certainly many business opportunities. And as I told you, the benefit of using 5G is that certainly it has a much higher capacity. So you can many more devices can be connected and then benefit from a more robust and faster connection. So it's perfect for managing, let's say, the city of tomorrow. Where you have many sensors, many vehicles, many objects that are all connected to a single point.
In that framework, I guess we could also talk about 5G Planet,
Mm-hmm.
because that's more about the connected mobility sector, isn't it?
Yes, sure. Well, actually, what we are doing in 5G Planet, so this is a project that is supported by the SMC, so the Department of Media, Connectivity and Digital Policy of the Luxembourg government. Well, basically, it's about creating an awareness-raising platform for the general public. So when we talk about 5G, 6G, or all these new network technologies, this is really difficult to explain to a general audience what are these technologies. Many people have questions and do not necessarily understand what are the benefits, for instance, behind these new generations compared to the others, and what applications these new generations can open up, let's say. So it's very difficult to explain for network operators, for a few stakeholders that are working on these technologies, and it's also because of the business cases. They're a bit limited today, so they still need to be developed. And I think that most of the users today, they have the image of 5G as being a technology that will let them download videos more rapidly to their smartphone. Well, okay, this is the case, but not only, of course. We have many more applications that are possible. I was referring, I was talking about connected mobility, but we also have digital factories. We have the development of virtual reality, and well, basically, this is exactly the purpose of 5G Planet, to explain all this. So we have developed an awareness platform, okay, for the general public. So it's a web platform, and it will be released in a few weeks. Certainly during the List Tech Day, so it's mid of June, the 15th of June this year, and there you will be able to see the demonstrators that have been developed in the project, and to explain what is 5G, and for that we will also use the example of connected mobility. We will use robots, simulation tools, quite a few let's say software solutions that we have developed internally to showcase, to explain, what are the capabilities of 5G and what kind of applications it can cover. So all this will be released. Yeah.
So you're saying it's a web platform,
Yep.
so people will be able to visit it and see the case studies.
We are creating a web platform, but then it's to showcase demonstrators that are created in the context of the project. So really the objective of the project is really we will develop a set of 3 demonstrators, and each of these demonstrators will answer to one question. So the first question will be, what is connected mobility? The second question will be, what is 5G? And the third question will be, how can 5G benefit to connected mobility? So we will have these 3 demonstrators. Sometimes we will use simulation software, let's say simulation interfaces. Sometimes we will use robot cars. We really have worked on these 3 different demonstrators, and the web platform will showcase these demonstrators, and will be a bit more didactic, let's say, so that a large audience can really understand and then go into details on what is behind these 3 questions.
Because you mentioned it, I don't know at which stage of development you are. I guess you're finishing if it has to be ready soon. But then we've discussed 5G, but you haven't really told us what connected mobility is, because I asked you about it, but we haven't defined it. What is it exactly?
So connected mobility, it's the ability of a vehicle to be connected to either a set of other vehicles or to the infrastructure, so that we can develop new services that are benefiting from that. So for instance, if you have a vehicle that is well connected to the traffic light infrastructure, for instance, then you could manage the traffic lights in a much more efficient way, so that you minimize the stops, the emissions that are produced by the vehicles. So there are many applications that are designed for connected mobility. Autonomous driving is also very much important, because if we really want to reach a full autonomy for the vehicles, then we need to exchange information. Okay, we need to receive real-time information from the infrastructure, from data centers, from data sources that are not directly located in the car, and this is where connected mobility is useful, to exchange this kind of information.
So just to summarize, this platform is to look out for and to learn from as well once it's launched. And I'm sure I'm going to share the link once it's public for our listeners. And just to summarize from where we are right now, more or less, because we've been jumping a little bit. So we've discussed 5G as such. We've discussed a little bit the IoT, as we called it, or Internet of Things. We talked about connected mobility. So we're talking a lot about people that are actually used to this idea of data transfer and internet and all that. But I know that you prepared a question for our listeners that is very much stepping back, because there are people apparently who are not so used to this whole idea. So what is the question you prepared for our listeners today?
So the question is, in percentage, how many people in Luxembourg have never used the internet? Of course, when we are talking about 5G, it's about connectivity, it's about accessing the internet. This is my question for today.
Okay, perfect. So please listen until the end of the podcast, where we will reveal the answer. But now we come back to the discussion. So basically, you told us about 5G Planet, which is a little bit more in line with SILAX, in the sense of it's this whole idea of raising public awareness about it. But you're also doing other research projects, at least, that are related to 5G and beyond. Can you tell us something more about the other projects?
Yeah, sure. So probably I can cite 5G EMIT. So this is another project that is supported by the SMC as well. And we do it in collaboration with Proximus Luxembourg. So it's about the electromagnetic fields that are generated by 5G transmitters, 5G antennas. So as you might know, all wireless communication technologies produce an electromagnetic field, and well, of course, all that is regulated. So an operator cannot just deploy an antenna as he likes. It's a process. It requires permissions, and the installations are all subject to exposure limits. And not only in Luxembourg, but at least in Europe, well, this is all regulated. At the level of each individual country. So the issue we have today is that 5G, well, as I told you, this involves new technologies, and this involves these active antenna systems where you have very precise beams. So basically, the methods that are used for assessing the exposure of these new antennas, this must be updated, because this is not working in the same way than the previous technologies. So all this requires advanced simulation models. This requires 3D geographical data, and then real measurements, performed in the field. So this is what we are doing in this project. We are working on this. And what we would like to do is to propose a platform to facilitate public access to this data, so that we are fully transparent regarding the results of the project first, because it's something for which the general public is curious, let's say. Not only curious, but this is a quite important topic at the moment when it comes to 5G. There is a fear associated with this technology. So we would like to make public all the results that are generated by the project. And then we also would like to develop a network planning tool, so that the public authorities, the network operators, the regulators can best plan, the deployment, the validation, let's say, of all these new antennas. So this is of interest for 5G, of course, but this will also be of interest for the next generations, since we will have the same questions, more or less, that will still appear. So this is an ongoing project, and more will be announced in the coming months. So we are currently developing the platform. We are also showcasing something related to 5G EMIT during the List Tech Day. So this is well. If you plan to go there, I would be pleased to share information about what we are doing there.
I understand that current Luxembourg regulation doesn't provide for 100% implementation of 5G. Did I get it right? That's why you're also kind of thinking how to change the analysis of exposure.
Let's say that the current regulation is compatible with 5G. It's just that it's too conservative because it's based on on 4G and the previous methodologies. So in any case, this is good. This is not dangerous. We are not exceeding the levels that have been defined previously. It's just that it's not fully optimized, let's say, for this new technology. So sometimes you have network operators, for instance, that have to reduce the capacity of their installation because this is not compliant. But in reality, this might not be the case.
When we talk about 5G, we talk about, as you mentioned, the problem of the emission, then, of course, the IoT and all the connected mobility, but we also talk about privacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's another topic we need to mention
Yeah.
here. And I think you also have another research project about privacy related to 5G.
Indeed, we have a project called 5G Insight. So this is a project about network security and privacy. It's between France and Luxembourg. And in this project, we look at the problems that are generated by vehicular networks in a cross-border environment. So a cross-border environment, it's a bit tricky, let's say, to manage, because you usually have roaming between two operators, so from two different countries. And these roaming operations, they can lead to security problems. And in the case of 5G, this needs to be managed. So this is what we are studying in the project. So basically, we are working on artificial intelligence models to try to predict the attacks that may happen on the network. And then we use a set of technologies like blockchain, for instance, to try to mitigate these attacks.
So what you're saying eventually is that the moment you switch from one mobile operator to another, the vulnerability of the network changes.
So yes, indeed, when you cross the border in between two countries, then of course you need. If you are using a mobile phone, then of course you will change. The network operator that is connected to your phone, and this change might be a source of attacks, might be an issue in terms of security, privacy. And again, when it comes to 5G, as I told you before, this is a network that is way more complex, a kind of network that is way more complex to manage, let's say, than the previous networks. So this means that you have additional potential security and privacy issues. So of course, all this, this has been discussed for years and years, and there are many institutes and companies that are working on these security issues. So the network is very, very secure, but still we have a few potential issues that might happen with the next evolutions of 5G and soon 6G. So we need to study these specific problems, and this is what we are doing in 5G Insight, this project between France and Luxembourg.
And just to understand, this means simulations. It doesn't mean you are actually placing yourself at the border between Luxembourg and France and checking what happens.
No. So at the moment we are using mainly simulation tools. So of course, when we are using simulation tools, this is not purely artificial, and we are also considering real data collected from the field, collected in collaboration with several stakeholders. So this is realistic, and this is also what we call the network digital twin. So from our side, what we try to do is to replicate digitally a copy of the network that could be deployed in a cross-border environment, so that then we can test, we can experiment different protocols, different approaches, different models, and then it's done, of course, in a secured way, because it's only a simulation environment. So this is one way, of course, of validating the models we are developing in for instance, if in this project, and that will, hopefully be implemented for future commercial solutions, or for the next implementations of these network technologies.
So this digital twin as such as an idea is very, very interesting to me, but I think this is the moment when we start slowly wrapping up our episode. And first of all, before we move on to the next steps and what is ahead of us, I would like you to just remind us what was the question that you asked in the beginning of the podcast and what is the answer.
Okay, so the question was, in percentage, how many people in Luxembourg have never used the internet?
And the answer is?
And the answer is 3%. So it's very, very small. So it's comparable, for instance, to what you can find in Sweden, in Denmark, in the Netherlands, for instance. And of course, I mean, it's very, very low. And when you compare this to larger countries like, for instance, Greece, then this number is 22%. In Portugal, this is 22% as well. So yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a clear benefit we have in Luxembourg. Yeah. Most of the people are actually connected to the internet. If I can say, it also means that it's the perfect place to experiment all these new network technologies. I mean, again, we are talking about 5G, we are talking about 6G. So I think Luxembourg is really a good place, a representative place, let's say, where these technologies can be experimented. So there are many research topics to be addressed about what this next generation of communication technologies, I mean, related to optimization, security, all the things we discussed together. We are already working on it. So what I guess that the audience should probably keep their eyes open, let's say.
Well, absolutely. What you're saying is actually music to my ears, because this podcast is really about, Luxembourg and what is happening here. So it was not me getting excited about Luxembourg being the right place, but you said it, and I'm really happy you mentioned that. I think it's really, there are so many different fields and so many opportunities for us, and it's a great place to be right now, for sure. And talking of future, when I introduced you, I mentioned 6G, and today we talked only about 5G, but I have to ask you, what is that about? Why 6G? Are you already thinking of that?
Yes, we are already thinking about 6G. It's so as I told you, a generation takes on average 10 years to be defined. With 6G, we would like to go way further than 5G. There are already quite a few standardization bodies, companies, research institutes that are working on this new generation. So the work has basically started. List is part of it. So of course it's still only the beginning. I mean, we are really talking about a generation that will come with a set of very innovative, revolutionary services, as we will see in the next few months and years with 5G. There are quite a lot of projects that are in progress, and on my side, I would invite all the audience to simply visit list.lu and then to follow the next edition of the List Tech Day on the 15th of June. So here the technologies, the projects on which we are working will be presented, will be showcased, and this is quite exciting actually to share all this with the general public, and so that a maximum number of people, let's say, can get a few insights about the research topics on which we are working on, the technologies that are foreseen in the next few years. Yeah.
So you'll be there personally.
Yes.
Our listeners can come to you and ask you more questions if they get interested in all the different subjects. But for now, thank you very much for talking to us today. Our guest was Sébastien Faye.
Okay, thank you.
So this is it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please share it on our usual channels on social media or just write me an email. And yes, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and tell others. Thank you very much. My name is Hanna Siemaszko, and this was Sci Lux.